Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Before we get started with the questions, which I believe we have 15 or 16 up on the forums, a few big things to talk about here. For one, sorry I'm a little behind on YouTube videos this last week. I took 2 days to really enjoy Battle Chasers after making that video. I was playing it off stream, after the stream, grinding up, trying to find little secrets and stuff like that for when it actually comes out on October 3rd. I finished the beta for Battle Chasers. I went up to level 15, 4 dungeons in, and there was a bug with one of the hunts, but I think the achievement says there's 9 hunts in that game. Overall, though, super excited for October 3rd when that turn-based RPG comes out. Divinity Original Sin 2 comes out this week. I played that at PAX West, but I'll wait on that. But then I still have videos to do on the Ultimecia reveal for Dissidia and how she actually plays. I have videos to do on Lost Sphere, Secret of Mana, as well as a few other RPGs I got to play at PAX West. Plus, there's some Final Fantasy XIV stuff I've been cooking up that's not done yet, on top of the 04 Savage Guide, plus working on a new segment for State of the Realm. So I'm behind on all of that, and so I got to get working on that this week. What else is there? And then there was something else, huge thing I want to talk about. So I should have made a video for this on YouTube before we did it, but some of you may know Denmo McStronghuge. He's a member of the Final Fantasy XIV community, very regularly puts out content that machinima style or just funny videos that are full of memes and full of his original take on content. There's really nothing like his content, pretty much. One thing he's big on is charity, and with all the hurricanes going on over here in America, he decided, very impromptu, he wanted to do a hurricane relief stream. And he put it out on Twitter, and he said, yeah, this is what we're going to do. I'll give you guys the full details on Saturday. I need you to come in on Saturday. And then, our friend Shannon, who works at, who's a member of the community team, you may know her as Lux Ferris, or as Akmorn, she reached out to a bunch of us on Twitter via tweet. He posted that, and then she just tagged us all in it. And he's just like, I didn't want to bother them. But we all came together. It was like me, Larry, Sophie, Sly, Ethis, Mary was in there for a little bit. God, there's so many names. Tate was there. Shit, this is why you should never try to name people. Obviously, Denmo was in there. Chenin was in there. I'm missing a name. I'm missing a name. I don't know who I'm missing. Zeppla, that was the name. That's the name I'm missing. Zeppla was in there. She was running one of the sub-servers right there. Drac was in there. Although it felt like Drac was pretty quiet until... Oh, that's right, no, because he came in hours later, yeah. So it was a hell of an event. Thanks to Denmo's leadership, Pook was in there. See, Pook left as I got... Oh, no, Pook got kicked. That's right, he got kicked from the Discord group, and he wasn't able to be in there until like way later. So he was like not in the Discord for like 9 hours. See, this is why you should never try to name everyone, because you're bound to forget some people. And yeah, I think that's everyone now with getting Zeppelin Pook, because I named everyone. Yeah, okay, I think I named everyone else. So yeah, and it was crazy. We ended up raising $21,000 like $300 and something in about 11 hours. And so the original goal is 1,000, and then he said, you know what, whatever, let's bump it to 5,000. Bumped it to 5,000 before the event started. We got to 5,000, right? Got to 5,000, bumps it up to 10,000. Guess what happens? Gets to 10,000. He says, you know what, I could bump it up to 15. Let me just bump it all the way up to 20. You know what happens? Makes it 20,000. They got to 20,000 right as they beat Odin. I had already left because I had some chores to go run. I had to go grocery shopping and whatnot. And it was fucking crazy. And a big shout out to him for getting it organized so quickly and then it being incredibly effective. We basically raided the Siren and Midgardsormr servers with Lalafels and marched all across Eorzea. We even killed, they killed Odin. We also killed the Go-Go Gorgamera Fate. So it was crazy. Siren was locked. You could not make new characters on it, and I hope we don't have their Road to 60 buff removed. That would be all our fault. But anyway, just wanted to shout out that event. It was crazy. Denmo, thank you for being a part of it, and everyone else who participated who I named, and if I did miss a name, I'm sorry. It was crazy. Thank you for all coming together for something as insane as that. I don't think we've ever had that many content creators in one spot before in the Final Fantasy XIV community, and it was fucking sick. I did not forget Sly. It was like the second name I said. But anyway, wanted to shout that out. Now let's get to the Q&A, which is what Mondays with Mr. Happy is supposed to be about, but that was a very touching moment here in our community, raising over $20,000 for hurricane relief. So let's get started with the questions. All right, so I skipped ahead to the second question. The first question was just someone having an idea and asking me if I had ideas. And I don't do that for Mondays with Mr. Happy just because it's not really a question and there's no real answer to it. So thank you for writing, the person who wrote. And by the way, you asked how I'm doing in question number 1, so I'll at least answer that. How you doing? I'm doing all right. How you doing? All right. We'll get that for question number 1, but we're going to otherwise move directly on to question number 2. Hey, Haps, how's it going? Have a bonus of the Yokai Watch event returning being a really, really bad joke, and it's going to be, and it isn't going to be around for a month like they say it is. Yeah, it's already here, though. So if it's a bad joke, it's running a little too long. Question 1, how do you think it's going to be before Sly finally caves and takes a drink of that sweet, sweet samurai Kool-Aid? He won't. He's not going to do it. He might level it, but he's never going to move away from Dragoon. So as much as he'll level everything 70 at some point. I'm pretty confident that he'll level Samurai among them, but he's not going to drink the Kool-Aid. He's just going to have it leveled. I think that's just it. I think that's all we're going to say. As for question number 2, for the next Omega tiers, what is one fight you want to see? I don't really care about the fights added to the Omega tiers. I was like, X-Death and Neo X-Death is cool, but it felt, as much as it was nostalgia for someone like me, it also just felt like a straight up cop-out. Like, there was no, the music was just an orchestral remix of stuff I'd already heard 20 years ago, you know, which is nice, but honestly, I didn't even really like the orchestral version as much, other than the Neo X-Death theme itself. I kind of preferred the old 16-bit ones, and I don't know, I don't really care to just drag other Final Fantasy bosses in just for the sake of, oh, hey, Omega can do whatever the fuck he wants. I'm just not a fan of the idea. Like, I guess I'll tell you what I don't want. I don't want any of the bosses from like 7 and on. Like, I don't want like a 7 theme one or an 8 theme one. I don't want any of that, because I feel like those bosses are far less linear than the old school Final Fantasy bosses. Like, X-Death is like traditional Saturday morning cartoon villain, and so are most of the like 1 through 5. Even 6, I'd say. Don't even touch Kefka, pretty much. But like, they're all so linear and like uninspired, all the final bosses from like 1 through 5, that I feel like you can throw them in and just be like, yeah, whatever, I can do that, and it works okay. But as soon as you start doing 6, 7, 8, these are characters that have intricate backstories and motivations, and they're not so linear. And as soon as you kind of just delegate them to, hey, he can make up bullshit, and you just throw them in there, they kind of lose any magic they may have had, like 15, 20 years ago when all these bosses first came out. So I feel like you really shouldn't touch those bosses for that exact reason. It's almost an insult to what, you know, those backstories that were created for them so long ago, as opposed to things like X-Death, which are pretty much like, well, I'm all the evil that was put into a tree, and then we'll later write in some bullshit about a super boss that for the advanced version. So I don't have a wish list for the next Omega, really. I just have a don't do Sephiroth or Kefka or any of those villains from 6 and on. All right, number 3. Hey, Haps, kind of messy question this week. Just warning you now. I like it messy. Anyway, so me and a friend of mine got into a nasty argument over jump potions. Wow, we've actually avoided the jump potion conversation for a while now, so this will be fun. Not over their inclusion, but over what mentors should do in response to them. He says that mentors should still try and teach a jumper the basics of their job, which is why you're a mentor in the first place, and say Siren, Song, Si, and Shisui, while I say they should either wait until level 30 or 40 and use the potion at all, so they can learn the basics, do a decent chunk of research. You know, as much as that sounds like an optimal situation, I think I see where this question's going. I couldn't justify spending the $25 after already leveling to 40 personally. That's just me, though. He also called me an elitist for what essentially comes down to wanting people to take some personal responsibility instead of teaching things they should really already know or not. I honestly think the onus is on Square Enix. I think if you're going to buy a jump potion, I think the onus is on Square Enix to provide the proper tools within the game for you to learn. And I think the other onus is on the individual player to care enough to learn. I don't think there's any onus on mentors to get this done. Yeah, that system's in the game, but let's be honest, the mentor system is ass. A lot of people just pick up the crown because they qualify for it, and they have no desire to be teaching people anything. There are absolutely mentors out there that do their job in the community, and it's good to see them when they do pop up. But I feel like there's too much responsibility. I agree with you that they should take personal responsibility. That's part of it. But I feel like some of the onus has to be on Square Enix to more adequately prepare someone when they hit 60 to actually being level 60. You know, there should be a gradual process there that's much faster, that isn't so instant, I guess. The problem being that if someone buys a jump potion for a character that's already leveled, then do you force them to go through the same thing? I mean, you could argue they maybe won't know how to play the job itself as much as they may know how to play the game, but then you start getting into a little bit of awkward territory. So I think there's too much onus being put on the mentors and the expectation that they'll teach someone to play the game. If someone never asks, a mentor's never going to tell. That's just my experience. If they try to tell people, go, shut up, you don't pay my sub. So, I guess I'm not really on either side here. I think that Square Enix should be held more responsible for the process and not the players themselves, or the players other than the Jump Potion player themselves. Or announced for the rest of the territories, didn't have one yet, my friend can't seem to find. I don't know. Jump Potions were in the rest of the territories before. And then they came to North America, Europe, and Japan. They were already in Korea and China, so I'm going to assume that that's what you were talking about. They were already there. They weren't even announced. They've been there for ages. All right, number 4. Hello, Mr. Happy, longtime viewer since 2.2. Hey, those were dark times for me because 2.2 is when my Leviathan guide came out. Oh, that's depressing. Anyway, one mildly interesting fact about us is that I'm 1 year and 1 day older than you are. That is, you're a leap year older. There you go. That doesn't make any sense, but I'll make it work. I'm in my last year of law school. Congrats. Lots of internships and schoolwork. Been AFK since my first year of school. I got back to the game this summer for 4.0 because I care for my girl Y'shtola and I want to see how she's doing. After completing an MSQ, I thought to myself, maybe I should level up a couple of class endgame, but I fell asleep doing my daily roulettes, especially the dungeons under 50. Additionally, my free company is all but an empty shell now. Used to have 10 people who talk every day. Now it's just me. My free company leader is in Australia with a completely different time zone. That's what happens when you leave a game for 2 years. People move on most of the time. If you don't have a free company who's like very well gelled and are like always getting along, I've seen link shells exist for years of people just talking. But sometimes people just, they move on, especially with the way the raid scene worked in 3.x. There was huge exoduses across servers, and that would be a large reason. If you come back, if you had 10 people, if they all decided they wanted to raid, or some of them decided they wanted to raid, and then the ones who raid left and the ones who were remaining didn't find there was enough people or conversation, then they leave. That was a pretty normal thing that happened to a lot of servers and a lot of free companies and link shells around the time that you were gone, because of the massive raid exodus and people starting to separate themselves between the raiders and being non-raiders. It was a huge rift in the community around the time of Gordius, and then Midas didn't really do much to remedy it. Creator started, and our current Omega is doing better at it, but that rift still definitely exists there. Also, falling asleep during daily roulettes, I guess it depends on what you're making of them, because whenever I do a low-level dungeon, I just zerg the shit down, and I have a ton of fun doing it. So I guess it depends on what you're playing, what job you're playing, because some of them can definitely be less exciting than others. Also, if you're playing completely alone, like you seem to be suggesting here, that seems pretty normal. This game's just not for me anymore. It may, I mean, it could be anything. When you're a law school student and your life is as busy as that, you have to consider going to something as low-paced as a daily roulette. And even compared to your normal life, which sounds to be insanely busy, the game is not insanely busy. And it sounds like your brain needs constant stimulation, because if you didn't, a lot of people don't have the attention span for things like what you're doing. And it factors into your personality. When you have to kind of slow down and stop, and you're doing just this one thing, and you know that one thing demands only a certain portion of your attention compared to the rest of your life, it's reasonable to assume that it just straight up may not be for you. And I think it's a completely reasonable thing, more reasonable here than when I usually read these kind of questions, just based on the background that you've provided for me. So I think actually, yeah, I think the answer would be yes. I think you need that constant mental stimulation, and maybe you'd get that from raiding in particular, but you'd only get it a certain amount of time per week, and the rest of your life would need to be filled with something that's creating that level of interaction between your brain and what you're doing. All right, question number 5, technically 4 here. Hey, Mr. Happy, longtime viewer, and still miss my 11 account. Don't. Anyway, I had a question which I had seen around the community. Wanted your opinion. Should Square Enix keep Ultimate Savage locked behind 0-4 Savage? Yeah. There's no reason for you to do that content if you can't even do 0-4 Savage. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You literally have not proven you're ready for this. And gated content is always kind of a thing, because there's the old like vanilla WoW attuning, which was kind of the same, but there was also some far more tedious aspects, to attuning to content then than there is now. I mean, you're not gonna do I don't know, like, I was always used to the idea, you get to a fight when you get to it, right? And if you don't beat the fight before it, why do you need to go to the fight after it? And yes, it's not a direct follow-up to 04 Savage, but 04 Savage is the gatekeeper for the next fight after that. You know? Like, that's just kind of how raids operate, or I believe should operate. You beat one to get to the next, then you beat that one, you get to the next. Just think of it if it was like 05 Savage. You wouldn't just jump to 05 Savage if you couldn't beat 04 Savage. It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So, that's my thought on it. Yeah, there's no reason they should remove it, because what are you going to do? You're going to go in there and it's going to be a fucking joke and you'll leave and you'll be like, haha, there's no way I could do this, but at least I was able to go in. Yeah. No. Alright, number 6. Ayo, Habs, what's going on, man? Question restated in bold at the bottom in case you ain't got time for all this reading. Well, sometimes I read the question and I go back to get context. In your opinion, is the ideal Final Fantasy XIV event like short, medium, or long? Oh, that's a pretty good question. Yeah. I don't think you needed all that background. I can see where you're going with this, talking about it. Alright, let's see. Partial to the middle. Alright. You think long, grindy Fate events would be more enjoyable if they were applied to the whole game? No! When has long, grindy Fate event ever been what? So, you know what? Man, I wish this event had long, grindy Fates. No. I like... For me, there's not one static answer. For me, it's more like, what is the context of why is the event long or why is the event short? The Yokai event is long because it's long, grindy Fates. It's not fun, it's barely interactive, and it's tedious. Like, there's nothing exciting about it for me. I don't get excited upon completing a weapon that's going to just basically take up space. So, the only reason it's long is because of how grindy it is. And then you have the really short events like The Rising, where you get Cheap Dungeon. And I was like, you know what, Cheap Dungeon was well worth the 15-minute laugh that I got out of it. You know? Or I think I guess most of our seasonal events are generally about 20 to 30 minutes. But then I think to some of the shorter medium events that were like really well done, and I kind of wish they were longer. Like the Haunted House one. I did the Haunted House and did every single one of the things. I kept going back in even though I didn't need it, because the Haunted House was something we'd not had as a seasonal event. I was very happy with it. It was I would consider that a medium length event. I spent about 4 or 5 hours as opposed to normally spending about 30 minutes, which is what I spend in most of the event. So when you have things like the Haunted House, you know, I'll take a medium or long event. If you have unique aspects like that, or things that I have a reason to do more than once that isn't necessarily grindy, but it's something I can repeat for a chance at stuff, or to extend my enjoyment of the event, I'll take those. I'll take a medium or a long event like that. But something like Yokai, fuck that shit. I'd rather just have a 2-second event than Yokai any day. We got some good questions. Got some good questions this week. Number 7. Hey, Happy. Not a first-time asker, but I have a bonus of any dragon from 14 you can do anything with. Not another fanfic, please. Anyway, the question is, what music do you like the most in Stormblood? Straightforward. I like it. So if I had to pick one theme, probably the final boss theme for Dungeons. I actually am not a huge fan of some of the other music. I think the Lakshmi one was okay the first time I heard it, and then I got tired of it immediately. Susanoo's is great every time I hear it. It's fucking awesome. It's very upbeat and it's very enjoyable for something like a primal. It fits him very well. Shinryu's, man, I still stand by it being it's an epic theme of epic proportions, but I'll still take Thornton's theme over Shinryu's theme almost any day personally. And then the actual dungeons had good music, but I don't know. And then on top of that, Omega didn't even have original music. It just had orchestra versions of old Final Fantasy V music. So I felt like there missed a little bit of a beat for me on music at the beginning of this expansion. I'm looking forward to the next live letter to maybe get that itch out of the way. But I'd have to say the final boss theme of the dungeons, honestly, that theme alone practically makes up for like anything else. It's easily one of the best dungeon related themes they've ever done. Alright, number 8, Haps! Kiltastic Jones here. Oh, that's right, I gotta read the sponsor list. I might actually redo the beginning of this video. Oh no, you know what? I'll just say the sponsor list at the beginning, because sometimes I do the sponsor list at the beginning, sometimes I do it at the end. We'll see. I might just do it at the end of the video here. Alright, I've been struggling a bit with the game, game interest of late. See, I get a lot of these questions, and it's always just like, I'm always just like, take responsibility and just be like, just play something else. A lot of people are so hesitant to play other games, it feels like. To that end, I started leveling White Mage, and all of a sudden, I find I not only like healing, but I'm pretty good at it. I almost just added a pretty fucking good in there. I played low-end game content healing in the past, but White Mage feels more powerful. It's supposed to. It's supposed to feel like the pure healer, even though it's got really good DPS. Got a couple of questions. Compared to other healers at 70, does White Mage still feel more powerful? White Mage has a lot of instant gratification with all of its abilities. Assize feels great every time you use it. Tetra feels good every time you use it. The only skill that doesn't feel great when you use it is Plenary Indulgence, unfortunately. Even your Medica 2, watching people tick up over time, your regens ticking people up for massive amounts feels really good. Divine Benison feels really, like, they have a lot of really like strong and instant gratification skills. So yes, I'd say that that still holds true at level 70. And 2, how does healing compare at the end game of Stormblood versus Heavensward? You know, as someone who hasn't really done end game healing other than, I guess, Coils, where I've just like pugged as a scholar before, just like for whatever, and White Mage, I guess. I don't really know that I'm qualified to answer this. I'll say this though, I've watched the healing unfold, and you have to remember that Gordius existed, and Midas existed, and Creator was then much easier than the both of them, and we've only had Omega Savage, which is around Creator's difficulty. So right now, I'd say that while healing has been intense in certain encounters, I could definitely name things like Almagest, and I can name things like, you know, Grand Crosses, and certain other aspects of the different encounters that have been a little more integrated into healing this expansion, it feels like. I don't know, I'm not qualified to really answer how it compares to Heavensward. All I can tell you is that Heavensward started the trend of healers DPSing being like a way more important thing than it was in 2.x. It was something that healers did in 2.x, but it took a mind of its own in Heavensward, and that's just carried over to Stormblood. But it feels like they really do want healers healing more, and they've added more for them to do that is raw healing inspired. That being said, I don't know how much different it is than Heavensward, so I can only give you my observations, but not my actual answer or opinion for that. And side note, do you think brand new content never before seen in an MMO is Bard performance? No, that's not content. I'm sorry, that's not content. Number 9, greetings, happy 05. Boop. I have no idea why I said that. I hope you're doing aight. It's aight. No, it's aight. It's not feeling high. It's feeling aight with a T at the end. A question occurred to me when I was watching your latest Patreon exclusive video. Wink, wink, everyone. You can get it also. It's easy and worth it. Thank you. You play a lot of games, all the Final Fantasies, the mobile games, ton of MMOs. Is there games you play for stream or YouTube videos that you don't enjoy playing or enjoy less? You keep playing anyway for the sake of the stream. So when I'm bored with 14, that might be the only game that really qualifies. If I'm not happy with a game, I won't stream it more than a day or two on Twitch. And sometimes even then, if the stream itself isn't enjoying it, then I won't stream it for more than like a day or two. So I would say there hasn't really been any games for YouTube videos or for stream that I've forced myself to play that I really didn't enjoy. I've done sponsored stuff for games that like I didn't know if I'd like because I never played before. Like I did 3 hours for Revelation Online for a sponsored thing. I didn't like it. Like when I did the YouTube video for my sponsored gig for that, it was literally just clips of my stream because I was like, I don't know if I can even speak about this game. Like I just here. That's all you're getting. But I wouldn't say I've ever forced myself to play it because it was successful and I didn't like it. So no, I don't think I have an answer. I don't have an answer for this. I don't think I've done that other than 14 when I'm bored of it and I want to play other games at the time, but 14 always performs well, so I'll still do that. Like usually during a lull like now that'll happen, but I'm actually pretty busy at 14 still, so I'm actually having a good time leveling Warrior. I mean, it's Warrior. Come on, waiting for Shake It Off. Yeah, but that's my answer. All right, number 10. Hey there, Mr. Happy. I haven't kept up with the last few videos from PAX, so I apologize if you already answered this, but here's the question. What are they doing with the Jenga Tower? Nobody knows. That's something we'll have to wait and find out. Most people are thinking it's going to be the next deep dungeon. I'm on that boat as well. I think it will be the next deep dungeon, so fingers crossed that it's the next deep dungeon. All right, number 11. Buenas, Señor Feliz. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. We haven't seen each other since the year's training under Señor Emoción. Yes, it is I, your rival, the greatest toothpick sculptor, Señor Triste. For this reunion, I brought you some Speedos for your Blitzball matches. I hate you, Anyway, however, I have a question I'm debating with my friend. How deep is Ivelisse in Garlean folklore? Will it have Garleans before Cerulean infusions? And if so, that mean the probability of a Garlean faction against the Empire? Literally, nobody knows the answer to any of those questions. That's it. That's it. There's nothing to debate there because there's no facts there. All we know about Return to Ivelisse, literally, is it is a Garlean folktale. That's it. There's literally zero other details known about anything in Ivelisse itself, and we won't know until patch 4.1 comes out. So, as Yoshida would say, please look forward to it. Alright, number 12. Greetings, Mr. Happy. Wanted to say thank you for your input on my previous question concerning your thoughts on an Extreme Savage Xenos fight. It's never really occurred to me that Shinryu was the final form. It really felt more like Shinryu than final form, but I see what you meant. Anyway, my question this week is very simple. You likely have answered and said so previously, but I was just wondering what your favorite or least favorite list was for the main numbered Final Fantasy games. It has been maybe 15, 20 episodes and someone's asked me that, so you know what? I don't mind answering it again. I have a really hard time actually doing a straight up top-down list because so many of them are like in the middle. There's things I like and don't like. Final Fantasy VI sits very clearly at the top for me, and Final Fantasy X very clearly sits right below that. It's immediately after that, everything in the middle, that I have a hard time. I'll tell you that at the very bottom is Final Fantasy II, and right above that is Final Fantasy III. Not the 3 that is 6, the 3 that is 3, because nobody cares about mistranslations or SNES versions anymore. Just fucking do 1 through 15, alright? But again, between the bottom 2 and the top 2, it gets really hard. The top one so the one that I had at number 3, it was really rough for me because I can name so many things that I like and dislike about every other Final Fantasy. I can tell you right now, middle of the pack, Final Fantasy 1. Final Fantasy 4 is like upper middle of the pack. Final Fantasy 5 is upper middle of the pack. Final Fantasy 7, a little bit lower than the last two I just named. Final Fantasy 8, kind of closer to the bottom. Final Fantasy 9, really like kind of flat middle because I'm not a big fan of 9. And I don't include 11 or 14 because they're MMOs and they don't really get judged. So then you have 12 and 13. So if 12, 13, and 15. So I had a lot of fun playing 15 as much as that game has its flaws. And 12 Zodiac Age was phenomenal. 13, I've now played through it maybe 3 or 4 times. And I dislike it less and less every time I play it. I'm like, you know what? If this game just didn't have sequels, I actually would have been kind of okay with this game. The whole rail thing is kind of, in my opinion, overblown. The game before it, 12, was super open, and 10 just did a better job of disguising the fact that 10 was also a hallway simulator. It just disguised it a whole lot better. So I don't really fault it for that, and then they have so many other design decisions that I actually, having, again, played through it recently for Count Up, I was more okay with them when I played through it again. I was like, you know what, I can kind of get a lot of these decisions and what the difficulty of the game is kind of like, and the whole restriction of leveling. I don't like the restriction of leveling, but it kept the game fresh and challenging. I still think 13.2 is the better game overall, but if I'm just talking about the main numbered game and not the spin-offs that followed, then I don't know. Like those remaining 3 are really tough for me. 13 still not top 3, but it's not. It's better for me now than it was when I played it years ago when I just despised it. Zodiac Age for 12 was phenomenal. It bumped 12 up a lot higher on my list. And then you have 15, which, despite the fact that it had its flaws, I ended up actually enjoying quite a bit. So it's tough for me to name that one that's sitting at number 3. So I can't pick a number 3. I can only tell you those 3 are like the hardest decisions, and they've moved up on the list for me in recent times. I guess I would probably throw 12 at number 3, and 15's like super close since Zodiac Age. I just love Zodiac Age so much. Alright, I think this is, 13. Thank you for answering my question last week. You're welcome. Hopefully by now you have a chance to watch. I still haven't had a chance to watch Dad of Light. That's another thing I gotta do, because I'm gonna watch Dad of Light and then talk about it on a YouTube video. I've been watching State of the Realm for a couple of months now. I've not heard you guys mention how you all met. You know, it's funny. I'm actually recording, I guess, something that's kind of like that. So State of the Realm, because we've been getting great support over on Patreon, one thing I want to do sort of as additional content, it's not Patreon exclusive, but because I want to create something that's more original, since we've been getting more support on Patreon, it's something called Host of the Realm, where basically I can interview, you know, Sly or Ethos or Mary, and then edit me out and just have them kind of talking about, you know, things and their interests in their life before playing Final Fantasy 14, and then when they first got into 14, and then being on State of the Realm, and then the first Fan Fest and the second Fan Fest, and just how things have progressed for them as hosts of State of the Realm, and as how things have just changed since they started playing Final Fantasy 14. So it's funny you say that, because that actually is going to be a very present topic in all of the Host of the Realm segments that we're going to be doing over the various weeks. So you'll actually be getting that answer there. Short answer, though, I met Sly at FanFest. Ethis I just met over the internet, and Mary I met over the internet. So there you go. Just because we were content creators, I was like, hey, you guys should come on the show. And they were like, yeah. And then we did a bunch of stuff. Ethis was on really early, too, with State of the Realm for things like Air Zivia. So it's very simple answers, but it'll get deeper when we actually talk about it in Host of the Realm. All right, number 14. Hey, Guy, the happy guy. I'm Guy every week. With the return of the yokai watch event, how do you feel about the return of seasonal events? One hand on person who did the Garo and yokai. It makes me sad because it may not be as rare. I guess I don't really care. Seasonal events are kind of crappy most of the time, except for the haunted house one and the occasional one that's like funny. But I guess I don't really care. You know, if it means that people can have a second chance of doing an event and they don't need to buy it on the Mog Station or whatever, I'm cool with it. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't make a difference to me. So, you know, go crazy. You know, Shantoto minions for more people and to others. It doesn't matter to me. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your events and enjoy your life. All right, number 15. Hey, Haps, anniversary time. Did you know that my first question was 100 episodes ago? You have 110 Holy moly. Wait, 110 posts. Oh, you posted in other places. Yeah, okay. Damn! Happy anniversary. Alright, so with an anniversary comes another question roulette. The change I noticed on White Mage, shake it off question. I don't want to take shake it off question mark because if it's, I have a feeling I know what the question is. Click this if you can't remember. I'm going to click this if you can't remember. How about to make the Blue Mage as legit? Okay, no, never mind. Because that's like, whatever. Oh, okay, that's something you asked before. The change I noticed on White Mage, then, is going to be the actual question I take. Where's the 15% chance of free Cure 3? I think they realized that giving you a 15%... Wait, was it free Cure 3? No, it wasn't free Cure 3. It was crit Cure 3, wasn't it? I think it made the Cure 3 a crit, not free. All the same, it doesn't make any fucking sense to have your single target Cure 2 give you an AoE Cure 3 proc. So... toss that shit. Oh, it's half MP cost. There you go. Half MP cost. Whatever it was fucking weird. I thought it was crit. I feel like they've changed it. I feel like it's changed in the... Oh, no. It was the Astro one that changed. Astro one went from being crit to instant cast. That's what changed. I remember that. It doesn't make sense to do single target Cure 2 to give you an AoE Cure 3 proc. It's 99% of the time you couldn't use it anyway. So, probably why it's gone. Correction on that last one, I got the Astro ones backwards. Went from instant cast to crit. I don't know anymore, man. With those crits, they just keep... All the fucking healing procs keep changing, and then Scholar has none. They have Adlo. But anyway, happy howdy, Mr. Happy. I think this is the last question on the forums, actually. I'm sad to hear about the lack of progress on Water Tackle Ball. I will punch you in the mouth. Anyway, questions for another Mr. Happy roulette. Oh, the last question's also a roulette. Let's see. Future Attractions, Spoiler 2.0, Lore Analysis. I'm going to take Future Attractions. Why? You just mentioned Blitzball. Why am I taking Future Attractions? Please don't be a Blitzball question. Okay, it's not. And it's actually a question that I actually have an opinion about. So thoughts on a potential Allegan Gold Saucer Coliseum. Maybe even a... Well, I don't think it needs to be an Allegan Gold Saucer. It just could be the normal Gold Saucer. I mean, it's just a Coliseum. It's just battles. I don't really agree with it being things like Ultima, Ruby, Emerald, etc. I don't know if I really agree with that, but I would like the battle square. Like, if Gold Saucer is going to do anything new, it's snowboarding and blitzball they're talking about now. I want the fucking battle square, all right? And you can get MGP based on how well you do in the battle square with the different random debuffs that you get. It would honestly, it would make gaining MGP, which as much as MGP is not like super useful for crazy different things, like a lot of people have a pretty solid means of obtaining it. I do battle square a little bit for MGP just for fun. I mean, the thing is, I'm going to abandon anything there, so you probably shouldn't listen to me about Gold Saucer because MGP is just not insanely useful, and I'm not a big glamour dude at the same time anyway. But I mean, I'd like the battle square at some point, but I don't know that I agree with things like a Gold Saucer Coliseum that has shit like the weapons that we don't even know if the other weapons are even related to the Allegans at all. Ultima and Proto Ultima are the only two that are Allegan creations thus far, because Omega existed before the Allegans, so he predates them, so he's not an Allegan construct like we originally thought. So I don't know. That's just how I feel. I just want the battle square, if anything, added to the Gold Saucer, or it could just, you know, not. works for me too. But anyway, that's the last question from the forum, so I'm going to close that up. And if we have good Twitch questions this week, because I don't think we had good Twitch questions the last time I took Twitch questions, I'll answer some of those and throw those in the video. So let's do that, and then I can do the sponsor shoutouts for the week. All right, so we've actually got some Twitch questions that I like this week. So we have this one from Ghostmaster. Do you think other weapons from previous Final Fantasies will be included in 14? So that's, to be clear about that question, what I'm presuming is we have things like the globe and the red mage weapon, that's like basically a staff and a sword in one. Yeah, no, I think one weapon we'll probably see in the very near future is a whip. I think that's a classic Final Fantasy weapon that I expect. If Geomancer pops up and they actually... I mean, obviously, Geomancer has its own story now. They're basically the Astrologians of the East. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a more formal Geomancer that has bells. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get whips in some way. I absolutely think. And then, honestly, Edda's Scythe being given as a glamour item on the Mog Station is also kind of a callback. I know a lot of Dark Knights are very happy who played Final Fantasy XI that they have an option that looks like a scythe because Final Fantasy XI, whatever. But yeah, no, absolutely. Bells and whips are two that I fully expect to see, maybe even in the next expansion. And then we have another one that's more about the content I'm creating on YouTube. Flynn asks, are you still going to be doing lore-related content? I haven't seen one in a while. It doesn't have to be for Hat Mondays. So the thing with lore content is I'm down to do lore-related content, and I do if I find it interesting. Like I did one for Omega, for example, explaining Omega's ties to Final Fantasy V and what's actually happening in the Omega story and where it has the room to grow and go from where it is now. What I don't like doing anymore is I basically watch the lore book in the game, the book in the in-room, and I just paraphrase it in like 20-30 minutes for a YouTube video. I'm not a fan of doing that anymore. It's a shit ton of time. I'm never going to get it across exactly the way I want it to. And to be honest, just watch the book if you give a shit about the story. Like, just break it down into like 30, like, I got 30 minutes today. Let me watch the story to this game. That's what it came down to. It's like, you know what? Just read the fucking book. You don't even have to read it. Just click on the book and watch the cutscene yourself. So that's my PSA. There's a book that tells you the story if you don't know what it is. So go watch cutscenes at that book. All right, third question from the Twitch chat. Lenda says, so what are you hoping they make Eureka to be? Are you hoping for it to be more dynamic than Diadem, maybe with conquering areas? So I ultimately expect it to be very akin to the Diadem at its core, especially because it's a relic grind. Eureka's entire purpose is to grind our next relic weapon, whatever it's called, because we don't have an official name for it yet. So I fully expect there to be, Diadem-esque fates in the area, but one of the more important things that they spoke about was that the content there is designed around light parties. So I have to imagine that the fates or events around the map are a little more intriguing than the Diadem in itself. What's also better about that structure, the Diadem structure for something like Eureka, is that it's a little easier to track the progress you're making while you're in there. Because when you go into Diadem, you go in and you get all these treasure chests and you open them. You have no idea what they're going to have inside. You don't know, there's working towards something is so completely random in the Diadem that it's hard to ever feel good about what comes out of it, unless you're gathering and you really want what you're gathering from in there. Whereas that kind of system for something like a weapon where you're making progress and you're customizing stats, and maybe they make it so you have to do certain activities in order to raise the stats a certain way, instead of materia or the point system that they did for the animal weapon, So, maybe they make it so like, hey, if you want to increase critical hit rate, maybe you have to focus on this specific type of event in the zone, or maybe if you want to raise determination. So then you have crit parties and determination parties, and then you have spell speed parties, and it's a little more dynamic in that sense, I think, and then on top of that, you have the boss fights, which scare me kind of because of emergency missions. I think it'll go a little better than emergency missions, but they have the boss fights that, respawn very infrequently that are basically the equivalent of S-rank hunts, although we don't know the exact levels to which that'll go. I mean, we know so little. If I were to relate it directly to Eureka, the Forbidden Land from Final Fantasy III, I'd imagine things going a very different way. Like maybe you don't even start with a weapon. Maybe your goal in Eureka the first time you get in there is to find bosses and fates and create the weapon itself, or to actually even obtain the weapon in the first place before you can actually even start the quest. And then maybe there's some overlap with the quests. And I don't know, dude. There's so many aspects to Eureka. One thing I hope they avoid is gathering in there. I think that created such a rift in the Diadem where people wanted to go in, unlock flying, and then just gather. And there's no way going in with completely random groups to line up your interests. Because people, even though they had like a queue into gathering one, people didn't give a shit. They didn't want to queue into the gathering only one with the airship. They were going to go into the completely random Diadem and just decide that they had no interest in doing any of the things that Diadem did. They're there for their own reasons. Eureka, at least people could theoretically be in there at least all for the same reason, and that is to build their weapons and potentially even armor, because they did say they were maybe interested in doing the artifact style armor, in which case you extend the lifespan of Eureka as a piece of content even more. So there's a lot they can do right with it still being kind of like the Diadem that feels better progressing through it. And I think that's the big thing they have to capture. It has to feel good going through Eureka and completing the content there. Ultimately, though, I think it will be a grind fest, so I hope you guys are ready for that. Alright, so that's going to be a wrap for Mondays with Mr. Happy that week. We had some good Twitch questions this week. I was glad. People definitely redeemed from a few weeks ago. Excuse me for clearing my throat right there. So we have one last thing to do here. I didn't do it at the beginning of the video, so we're going to do it right now. We have to thank our weekly sponsors. For those who don't know, we created a Patreon account sort of to counteract what's been going on YouTube with the demonetization. I've been very open. The demonetization hasn't like obliterated my channel or anything, but I'd rather not wait till it does or see if it does before doing something like Patreon. And like I said, we're going to be trying to produce more actual content, things like Host of the Realm, things that are, I guess, a little more personal and things that have a little more effort put into them because people have been supporting on the Patreon itself. So I thank the people who give me their names who are in certain tiers. So like we have for Mondays with Mr. Happy a standard, elite, and premium tier for the different people who are sponsoring at the different levels. So let's start with naming some of our standard sponsors. We have Fafarian, we have Rendil, we have Giraffeswillrule, we have Stevie-Rex, Ignis Fairgun from Diabolos server, Goetia Valefar of the Siren server. Oh, whoops, I moved up to elite, I didn't even realize. Then we have the elite. So we only have 4 standard sponsors for Mondays with Mr. Happy, and then we have a shit ton of elite and premium. So Ignis Fairgun from Diabolos is elite, Goetia Valefar of Siren is elite, and then I'll just name them all up to premium. Jean-Francois, we have Themacholuis, who I almost call the Themacholuis every week. Hersh Fersh of Faerie, TinColossus, Phoenix Down Free Company on Goblin, Obai Dalshamsi, and Serren from Zodiark. Those are all the elite sponsors. Then we have the premium sponsors. We have a new one joining the crew this week, Khuja Cross of the Jenova server. Thank you for your pledge this week. We have Ahmed Kurenai Oni Abdullah, another premium one. We have Killerhackman. We have Raul Jr., Darklight2013, Ramil Gaming, and Kiltastic Jones. Some people you may recognize from Mondays with Mr. Happy this week because they like to ask questions. I love saying Jean-Francois' name every week for this and State of the Realm. So thank you everyone who's sponsoring the channel over on Patreon. Keep in mind if you're a new sponsor, October will be when we send out the mug and the stickers for the people who have put their mailing addresses actually in the Patreon itself. We gotta wait till the beginning of the next month because that's when it actually processes. Don't want to send the mug out and then the person withdraws their pledge before the beginning of the next month. So just want to put that out there. Thank you everyone for sponsoring the YouTube channel in particular. We try to kind of separate the Patreon. It's not really Twitch focused. It's all YouTube focused for the most part. But anyway, on that note though, we're going to wrap up Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question for Mondays with Mr. Happy, ask it in the designated forum thread below in the description of the video, or tune in on Sundays. We mostly recorded around 12:30 Pacific. Today we recorded it a lot earlier. But if you just come by the stream on Sundays, you can usually find out what the plan is going to be on those specific days. And also remember, if you're in the way of Irma, be safe. You know, take care of yourself, take care of your families, and make sure you get through that one, and let all your loved ones and let everyone you know online in Final Fantasy XIV, your friends, wherever, let them know you're okay, and remember that you're always in their thoughts, because we care about you. All right, that's what the hurricane relief was for. So on that note, I'm going to hang out with my Twitch chat for a few more minutes. I will see all you fine ladies and gentlemen next week for the next episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy Twitch chat. I'll see you for the next few minutes. Thank you, and until next time, take care.